Well, Mr. Soyebi, this is the second time in recent memory that INEC has had to shift elections over security matters. And a lot of people believe that INEC's credibility in this instance is at stake. Do you see your credibility being at stake here?
In fact, I see it otherwise because, as I said earlier on, there are two components to election: the conduct of the election and then the environment in which it's conducted. If the environment is not good, no sensible commission anywhere in the world will move in with men and materials and go and risk their lives. That has nothing to do with repetition. You see, we mix things up. When things go wrong, people don't differentiate between the environment and the commission. For instance, look at this issue of the inconclusive elections we're talking about. It's still environment and then the commission's operation. People don't talk about the environment. It's always the commission. But when it happens, it's so easy to say, oh, ultimately it's the commission that is wrong. But there is very little we can do about the environment, securing the environment.
Did you hear the words of the leader of one of the CSOs, or let me say the amalgamation of the CSOs, who said that this is becoming very unbecoming, that INEC is under the influence of executive interference? That's how he read it, and I think that that's how a lot of the civil society organizations that were on ground to monitor the elections felt. That there was undue interference by the executive arm of government on INEC. Does INEC feel that way, especially since it was not privy and has not been privy to the security information that has necessitated the postponement of these polls?
No, I can assure you that the executive has never interfered with us. Don't forget that when you talk about executive, there are so many organs of the executive too. If you talk about one organ, and honestly, the civil society organizations too, they were just as shocked as everybody because we're all in Benin. That's number one. Then number two, it's not, they don't even interfere with us, because if they're going to interfere, there will be a direct communication or a direct instruction. It was coined very simply that it's only INEC that has the power to postpone elections. And when we discovered that the platform for postponement was not there, we went ahead and said we were going ahead.
Well, you were already, sorry to cut you were already moving sensitive materials, because that postponement came just, let's say 48 hours to the D-Day. So those materials you had already started maybe to deploy. How safe can you say they are at the moment?
Well, that comes to another phase of the postponement. There has to be what we call a reverse logistics. We have to demobilize. We had mobilized fully up to more than 90% for the elections.
More than 90%?
More than 90%. Personnel, materials, everything you can think of, at least in our own checklist, we had well over 90% mobilization. The only thing that remained for those elections was just the ballot papers and then the result sheets, the sensitive materials. They were already in the central bank. All we had to do from that stakeholders was to move en masse with the DIG, the chairman of the commission, the 19 political parties, straight down to central bank to go and retrieve those things to our office, because we are always open and then we include them anywhere we do this. That was the next step after the stakeholders meeting before we had this halt. So it was just the distribution of the materials that remained for mobilization down to the various registration area centers, and of course from onward distribution to that was about the only.
Do you feel that some of those materials would have been compromised?
Our sensitive materials have not been compromised because they did not leave the vault of the central bank. The issue of the non-sensitive materials, which started distribution about 2 weeks to that time, because you have to set up the rack, and we monitor, we track the development of each rack. Every rack was ready. Everything that was supposed to be in any rack was there, over about 1,000 different racks. So we The materials were there.
Mr. Soyebi, would you say that INEC, can you confirm that INEC was not put under any pressure?
I can say categorically, and if you know our track record, we don't tell the country a lie. It's one of our slogans. The country does not deserve a lie from the Commission. And number two, we'll be very honest and open with them. There was no pressure at all. Apart from this letter that came, that was the only influence that postponed the election. No pressure, nothing.
Because there are stories. There are stories that, I mean, and when you look at the sequence of things, you know, this kind of gives it some credence. There are stories that as at Wednesday, when you held that stakeholders meeting, when the INEC chairman did say that, you know, there's been no such, that he's not aware of any security threat. As a Thursday morning, INEC did say it was going to go ahead. By Thursday evening, INEC had changed his mind, and then there were also stories of before INEC changed his mind, there were already withdrawal of security personnel from INEC personnel. Security personnel that had been guarding INEC personnel were now withdrawn by the security agencies, and some people interpreted that to be pressure on the part of the executive to force the hand of INEC to postpone the polls. Can you confirm that?
The way you said it, they are just stories. They are not true. Honestly, there was nothing like that. There was reduced security activities, at least that much we noticed. We were about to go to the central bank and we waited for security to escort us, but I'm sure they were waiting for signals too, the way they said it. But the moment the announcement was made on Wednesday, there was reduced security activities, at least towards the processes.
At what time was this? When did they reduce?
No, we discovered when we were about to go the following day, we were about 12 hours late before we made that announcement we were going ahead. We were waiting for official communication, we didn't get it. We now came out to the world that, look, INEC has not gotten any information officially from the security operators. What we had was just the news as everybody had it, and we were going ahead. We tried to physically move ahead, but we discovered that we called for security to come with us down to the Central Bank of Nigeria. We wanted to even share the materials from there down to various local governments because we were about 12 hours late. That was when we saw the body language that there was reduced security.
And are you okay with the 28th of this month? How did you arrive at that? Because for so many people in Edo State, who are looking forward to a big moment, a historic moment, which is 26th, the coronation of the Oba of Benin, and knowing full well that most of those festivities just might spill over. How did you arrive at 28?
The election, it's a process which was planned 6 months ago. It's now being set back. So the earlier we had that election and get it over, the better for us, because there could be what we call this constitutional lacuna. Governorship in an election in Edo must take place at least 1 month before the expiration of the date of the incumbent. The reverse logistics, that is removing all our things back to the office, will not take us anything less than 2 weeks. Out of these 2 weeks, we have 2 days already, today and tomorrow public holiday. We still work on Saturday. We have to configure over 4,000 smart card readers. That will not take anything less than 10 days. They've been configured for the 10th of September. We have to now reconfigure entirely for that process. That's going to take about 10 days. We counted the days we had.
Why 10 days?
4,000 or over 4,000 or 500 smart card readers, it will take about that.
But if you did it in 10 days, 4,000, will it take the same 10 days for reconfiguration?
It's going to take about that. In fact, initially it took more than that. We have to double to configure them for this election. It took more than 10 days. But we have to accelerate this time around. The configuration is not as easy as you think it is. The ICT men in Abuja, in our commission will tell you that. Some of them are not even going on all this today to make sure that the configuration starts. That is number one. The number two, we had to go openly to the security apparatus these dates that we have taken, we arrived at that date with them to that date they were guaranteeing those days. Don't forget that the weekend after 28 will go near October 1st, and we will hear about security implication again. So that was why we had to shift it to somewhere like the middle. It's like a late process does not even ask a choice of date. When the process is late, it's late. We are being set back. You don't even choose dates, you just do it at the most convenient time. We are mindful of the coronation. That was why we didn't put it on that on the 26th or 27th.
All right, we'll take another break, but we'll be back and then wrap our conversation up in a moment. Do join us again.